never realized how difficult gardening in Texas would be. I grew up in Iowa, and I had a mom and a grandmother that had a garden every year. To me, it looked like it was so easy that they just tilled up the ground, threw in a few seeds, and just a few weeks later we had lots of vegetables. I love gardening, and so when I moved here, I was really excited to be able to have a garden again. The first year when we did gardening, we tried it in this area right behind me, and we did it the typical gardening way at ground level. We tilled up the soil, we planted our seeds, we watered and weeded, and then we sat back and watched the weeds and the grasshoppers take over, and then what was left was killed by the Texas heat. It was discouraging, but we tried again the next couple of years, doing a little bit of a raised bed where each growing area was surrounded by a 4-inch board to help keep some of the weeds out, and when we watered, to keep the water in. Again, we had to contend with the Texas heat, Texas grasshoppers, lack of rain, constant watering, and it was very discouraging. Then we even gave up for a few years and didn't garden at all. But just a few years ago, we had some scrap lumber, and we thought we would try it again. With this scrap lumber, we built raised beds that were anywhere from 2 to 3 feet high. The advantages of these raised beds was that we felt we would have, one, a little more control over the soil, because we found that the soil here varied so much that we never knew what we were going to dig up when we stuck in the shovel. We would also be able to weed easier. There would not be any kneeling down on the ground to try to weed every summer. The advantages that we found with the taller raised beds was that we had more control over the weeds. It was too tall for the weeds to grow up and over and into the beds. We also had better control of pests, and we had a much easier method of watering the gardens. We didn't waste a lot of water. We were able to water individual plants. This is an example of a raised bed and the framework and what we would do to have soil control. In this particular bed, we have the garden soil that's going to go back in, but we're going to mix in with it some additional peat moss and a moisture controlled potting mix. This will help with the Texas heat and help the plants have more moisture in the soil level. This is another bed that we prepared in the same manner with the same items, and you can see that being able to control the soil in this area is really good. You can control the type of soil you need for different vegetables, and you can control the nutrients that you put into it. Turn it off. These are the results that we've been able to get with our taller raised beds, with having control over the soil, control over pests, easier weeding, easier watering. We've been able to have an earlier garden and greater harvest.